One or two? Camera one or two? Oh, okay. All right, we are back to the hotspot. It's time for another round of candidate conversations, that thing that Jason does so well. And with us today are Republican candidate Shirley Sam Mabini Young and Democrat Wil Parkinson. Thanks for joining us, folks. Thanks. All right, first question, something that Wil probably has no knowledge about. Currently, I'm joking, of course. Currently, the application process for responsible official cannabis identification cards for recreational use, adult use cannabis business is ongoing. What are your thoughts, and do you feel we've progressed significantly since it was first introduced in the legislature? And let me start with you, Wil.
Absolutely, we have progressed significantly. We had a bit of a hiccup because of COVID gumming up the works, but when we started this whole thing, when I started my activism towards cannabis, we had no shot at recreational cannabis, and here we are today, 4 years later, and we have a responsible official signed up for. I mean, that's an exciting time. Like, you know, the wheels of progress are slow, but they are happening. And so I'm so proud of our cannabis industry for, you know, getting together and doing this. You know, this is really a community effort. And, but you know what? As happy as I am now, the job is not done. For me, I always put my benchmark at success when the first registered sale happens at the dispensary. Then I could say the work is done, and you know. But as far as this is a good start, and let's keep building on it.
Yeah, we've got 2 ID cards issued so far, and of course the next step would be to get the license through Rev and Tex. Senator Sam, what do you think?
I think there's a lot of progress. I think a lot more work is needed. I understand that there's still a lot of work as far as policy behind the cannabis industry. I think it's a great opportunity for Guam, and I'm excited to see what's going to happen next year.
All right, on to the next question. It's been a challenge to hire and retain police officers with the Guam Police Department. What are steps that need to be done to beef up manpower with the local force? Let me start with you, Sam.
Sure. We know that we have been able to produce a lot of graduates, but it's a retention problem, whether they leave the business of police work and move to another maybe agency or job here in Guam, or they leave off island. So we need to examine what do we need for retention, whether it's pay, whether it's benefits, whether it's a kind of training to expedite re-entry into the industry. We have a lot of individuals from the military that would love to maybe enter this career field, but is the training that we're providing too cumbersome? So we need to look at all the avenues of bringing them in or bringing them back in or keeping them in.
All right, same question to you. Wil, it's been a challenge to hire and retain police officers with a GPD. Well, what are your thoughts?
Well, I agree with her. I think that retention is the key. Specifically, I know one of the things that the police have been looking at, and that's kind of standard across the nation, is the earlier retirement age. Because I right now believe it's up into the early 60s when nationally it's in the mid 50s. And so if I was elected senator, I'd like to help not just the police officers, but the firefighters achieve, you know, an earlier retirement, more competitive retirement benefits, because that's what really retains people. Because she's right, we train them up, we put all these resources into them, and then somebody else gets the fruits of that training. So we got to find a way to keep the people that we do train up, because we do a fantastic job of training and recruiting, but it's retention.
Well, what are your thoughts on the governor has recently started a program with GPD to return some of the retired senior police officers to help out, keep them in management positions so that you can put more officers out on the streets? What are your thoughts on that?
I think there's value to any age coming back into the industry, and if they have a wealth of experience that can of course add to the caliber of our workforce. There's always the question of health and fitness. So that would be one of my concerns, is that are they fit for the job? We don't want to necessarily have to corner them into a desk job if they are interested in being out in the field or whatnot. I think it's a value. The retirees are one of the most valuable resources. They're sitting in that group of unemployed, and that's not, excuse me, not unemployed, those who are not working, choosing not to work, but we'd like to attract them in. We see that happening with teachers, with other administrators in different agencies. I think the police force would definitely benefit. My husband, excuse me, is an ex-police officer, and he's always threatening to come back in and work. And I think he would be great at it.
Yeah. Your thoughts, Will, on bringing back the retirees or former police officers and having them take over the sort of the management so that you can release some of the younger current officers into the streets.
Yeah, I mean, if there's room for them at some of the desk position, I'm not against that. But I mean, I was just talking about how one of the things that was keeping us from retaining officers was the high retirement age. So I'm not sure if dipping into that retirement pool is necessarily the right answer for that. I love the heart and spirit of it, but I know they want to retire younger, so dipping into the retirement pool seems kind of going to take a step backwards.
Okay. Moving on, we've seen it when out and about, more people homeless and out on the streets. If elected, what are some ways you would tackle such an issue, Will?
We don't have a homeless shelter on Guam. And, you know, for the first time, because of amazing fiscal management by this current administration, we actually have the opportunities to have lump sums of money to, you know, develop into some long-term projects. And one long-term project I'd like to see on Guam is a permanent, properly staffed homeless shelter to help process people off the street and help get them back on their feet.
Yeah, Sam?
We tend to group homeless people as this one group, but in reality, there's various sub-segments within the group, whether they're veterans, whether they're just individuals who are down their luck, and there's that interim period where they're homeless, and there's others that's dealing with mental issues or drug abuse. So we need to be able to look at those various groups and see what resources that we already have available and tackle with them. Let's look at the low-hanging fruits. So veterans tend to be those because they have a lot of resources. Mental health is a critical area that we need to do a better job in serving their needs. And having a home first is an approach that has proven to work. We can talk all day about rehabilitation or whatnot, but having shelter and having a safe place would probably be the first start.
Yeah, I think the homeless that we see, you know, the folks that we see panhandling on the streets of the intersections is just a symptom of a much larger problem that we need to deal with, and we haven't really addressed it. I think the legislature and the speaker just passed a bill to address that, and that's the Chamorro Land Trust Act, right? It was launched 40 years ago to provide land for the landless indigenous population, and we haven't done a good job of being able to do that. And one of the holdbacks has been the lack of infrastructure. You can give them land, but if there's no infrastructure, the cost to put in a sewer, for example, is out of reach. So what would you do as a senator to help along this process? I mean, the bill that was passed and is waiting the governor's signature is a good first step, but you know, it would provide some funding, but not enough funding at this point. You would have to wait for, and I'm talking about the bill the companion bill that also provides for $100,000 from each cable that's landed, right? That would go straight to the Chamorro Land Trust. But how would you attack the homeless situation and the lack of housing and lack of affordable housing? Sam?
Sure. There's a term that is being used that you may have heard of called accessory dwelling units. And we're finding out in America that the traditional large, big homes, you know, are not as useful anymore, and it has taken so much of our properties. But many of those homes, like what we have here in Guam, many landowners, many landlords are able to create these extensions that they could possibly rent at reduced rates for whether they're single individuals or college students, or maybe a visiting nurse, or person who's homeless who may need, you know, to have that extra support to get back on their feet. We need to look at beyond the Chamorro Land Trust. What inventory do we have right now that that we can use? So, for instance, if you're a landowner, I'm a homeowner, but if I could find out that there are incentives for me to build in the back of my house to have extension rentals, or I'm not going to be in trouble because of permits, then that would be a win-win situation for both those who are looking for homes and landlords.
Will, your thoughts on the larger problem of you know, land for the landless and affordable housing?
Well, for the landlords, because the thing is, if the land's getting to them and they just don't have the money to do anything with them, I would look to federal programs, federal housing programs, as a potential funding source for these individuals. Because this is not a, like, I don't think the government should be in the process of giving people business advice on how to generate revenue from their land, but we should be finding ways to get, some dollars from Uncle Sam to help put in this infrastructure. Because I know the Biden administration is looking at building infrastructure, and plumbing and electricity in people's houses is one way to do that. As to the larger, problem of housing, there's only really two things a senator in the legislature can really do, and one is give vouchers to help people pay for rental units, and the other is to reduce regulations on apartment buildings specifically, because apartment buildings, they give you the best bang for your buck in terms of space to dollars.
All right. Okay, moving on to the next question. On the campaign trail leading up to the primary and on the way to the general, what have been some of the big issues that people have been coming to you with? What are people talking to you about?
Jobs. For those who are working and they're driving in the streets and they see homelessness issues, affordable health care. Those are the top three that I've been hearing.
All right.
Cost of living. The power specifically is just, people are besides themselves, especially the people on fixed incomes. When you get the power rising on them and it just chops away at any discretionary spending, and that hurts everybody. So the high costs of living and crime. Crime is a big problem with the drugs especially. And I think I think we've seen all these drug problems happening, and so I'd like to tackle some of these drug problems, and and just being prepared for the future. And so one of the things I've had people say is they really like about my platform is the introduction of a permanent unemployment insurance program, because we know with absolute certainty another disaster will hit us, whether it be typhoon, disease, or some sort of destabilizing war. So let's have the the emergency response in place before the emergency.
All right. Well, you mentioned crime, which is a good segue into our next question, because we've seen it in the news. There has been an uptick in crime, especially armed robberies, violent crimes. Residents don't feel safe. Sam, what needs to be done?
Well, we have to look at the source and where is the crime coming from? Is it because it's drug induced? Is it because individuals are finding no jobs and they're turning to crime or whatnot? We need to look at that first and see how we can work on a preventative program. I know that Safe Neighborhoods are taking action by doing Neighborhood Watch. That seems to be very, very effective. But again, I'm always after preventive measures. I mean, what pushed that individual to move into a life of crime? And getting at that, is it the recidivism? Is it that they're going to the prisons and then they're coming out and finding no job opportunities for them, and so they have no other options? So then we as a community have to be able to support them so that they don't return to a life of crime. So preventive measures.
Yeah, you want to add to what you said earlier about crime, because I think Sam brought it up. There is a high recidivism rate, especially among violent criminals.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you look at where a lot of the crime comes, like I've identified 3 spots where crime happens, and one is youth that don't have anything to occupy their time, people who are on hard times and stealing out of what they perceive as necessity, and people with drug addictions. And so all 3 of those things have different solutions on how you tackle them. With the youth, like I grew up on the basketball courts here on Guam. That's what kept me out of trouble. We got to give them things to do, give them spaces to be kids. For the people who are doing it because of necessity, we have to provide them with jobs. We have to provide them with social safety nets like unemployment insurance, so that they don't have to resort to crime during their times of leanness. And for the drug problem, that one, there's a 2-pronged approach I want to take there. And one is I want to show compassion and care for the people that are addicted, get them treated. But for the people who peddle this poison to the community, I want to hit them with the holy wrath, because poisoning our community is a terrible way to make money.
All right, on that note, we're going to take a short break, and we'll be back with our guests, Sam Mabini Young and Wil Parkinson, right after this. All right, welcome back, everyone. If you're just joining us, of course, this is Candidate Conversations. I'm sitting in for Jason Solich today, and we have with us former Senator Shirley Sam Mabini Young and Democrat Wil Parkinson. Okay, this is the time of the program when we go to our community questions. And so we're going to go to the first one.
Hafide. My name is Sage from the village of CHALAN, PAGO. My question to the senatorial candidates is, what are you going to do to make the healthcare more affordable?
All right, that was a Sage from CHALAN, PAGO who asked, what are you going to do to make healthcare more affordable?
Well, I know what I would do. I would aggressively pursue universal health care here on Guam. Because especially after the pandemic, I think it really highlighted a weakness in our healthcare system, where if you lose your job, you have no health care. So what happens when you have a mass unemployment event like the pandemic or a typhoon or something that destabilizes the island? Where do you get your health care if you have no job? So I would like to push Guam towards a universal healthcare system.
All right, Sam, how would you make healthcare more affordable?
I am actually going to take a different approach, and I'm all about preventative health care. And that was the approach that I took when I was working, that one way that I would save money was to make sure that my family, myself, was healthy first, because a lot of premiums are actually based on our usage. So being healthy, that's one approach. Second approach would be, I would think that we should be working with our clinics in building up our I think it's urgency care units, so that an individual doesn't feel forced to going to the emergency room and incurring all those unnecessary high costs. So finding those different approaches to getting health care that are a lot more affordable and more manageable.
All right, next question, please.
I'm Terry, working here at Compadres Mall, Bazaar 2. For candidates running for office, what is your solution to the road problems around the island?
All right, that's Terry, and she works right next door to us at the Compadres Mall. And she asks, what is your solution to the road problems here on island, Sam?
Maintenance is one thing. I mean, we should not wait till we have like massive potholes on the road, or we have sinking roads. I know some places in Tamuning, for instance, where that happens because maybe they're not maintaining the sewer line area, and so therefore the road is sinking or whatnot. So building a strong maintenance budget system so that we are continuously maintaining our roads as opposed to waiting for it to have to be fixed.
All right, well, Terry says we need to fix the roads.
Kamusta, tita? Sasabi ko sa'yo, lalaban ako sa inyo para maganda yung mga roads natin ulit. Lalaban ko may pera doon, and lalaban ko that maganda yung maintenance. So that's my answer to my Filipino brethren out there in Compadres Mall. Shout out to the Filipino community, Compadres.
Nice. So actually, in translation, he said he's going to fight for more funding, yeah?
That's right.
More money. Okay.
More money and better maintenance.
Next question, please.
Hi there, my name is Eris and I live in the village of Tamuning and I work in aviation. My one question for the senatorial candidates is, what will you do to make the LGBT community much more progressive in Guam?
All right, Eris from Tamuning asks, what will you do to make the LGBTQ community more progressive on Guam? Sam?
Well, I think, we've come a long ways. I see a lot of integration in our community, a lot of acceptance. I think it's part of our culture. I would love to see more representation throughout the government of Guam, throughout our private sector. Let's see, I'm just actually proud of the actual community, because they have been very aggressive and very progressive in being part of our, of our community structure. I honestly, I would just continue supporting what efforts they have. Yeah.
All right. Well,
Normalization. I think the more we're exposed to something and the more it becomes normal to us, the more it's easier to accept, especially at a younger age. You know, I grew up in the 90s and we were starting to become a little bit more accepting of these things. And it helped me, you know, get used to the idea of just seeing it more and more. And how else do we make the LGBT? If I'm elected as senator, I will be an ally to the LGBTQ community. So that's how I intend to help them, is being an ally to them and finding ways to help normalize their lifestyle.
all right. We're out of community questions, but I do have a couple of more for you guys. One, of course, kind of a big deal on the mainland, abortion. We've got a Republican here and a Democrat. Tell us your position on abortion and why.
I believe in protecting life, and at the same time also want to respect the decision of a woman. And you know, this is an important issue, a very complex issue that not only Guam is facing, but the whole United States, the whole world. But I cannot, you know, deny that life is important, that children are important, that the health of the child is important. But I also cannot deny that the life and the choices of a woman is also valuable as well.
All right. Will?
Well, I am staunchly pro-choice. So even though I am a Catholic and in my personal life I would never exercise abortion myself, I believe in freedom first and foremost. And women should have the freedom to choose what happens to their body, because my beliefs might not be their beliefs. And so I want to respect the freedom of the individual in all its forms, including what happens to your own body. That's the fundamental. No one can make me donate my kidney to save somebody else. A woman shouldn't be forced to donate her body if she doesn't want it either.
All right. Well, the Admiral appeared at the Guam Chamber of Commerce yesterday for a keynote speech, and one of the announcements that he made is that for the next 7 years, there'll be $1.2 to $2 billion in military construction funding for the next 7 years. Huge amount, he says. What is your position on military territorial relations, and do you support the current buildup?
In my personal life, I would prefer we didn't have a military buildup. I'm kind of a love and peace kind of guy. But as an elected representative, if the buildup is going to happen, I swear I will work hard to make sure we get the best possible deal we can get out of the buildup.
All right. Sam?
When I was a senator in the 31st Guam legislature, I had the privilege of being able to work with a lot of our leaders in the Western Pacific region, and also meet with other leaders in the East Asian region. And there's no doubt that Guam is such an important strategic place for the United States to protect not only us, but the United States in general. So strategically, there's no doubt that we need to play our part to protect not only, like I said, ourselves, but the United States. So yes, I'm in support of the military buildup and the residual benefits of having the buildup, whether it's jobs and opportunities. For instance, one of the things that we keep talking about is trying to build up our workforce in the construction. But realistically, in the next decade or two, the workforce that would be in need would be the maintenance side, and there's a lot of jobs and career opportunities that will be there for us. And I think that would not happen if we didn't have this economic buildup on top of our need for continued tourism.
Okay, that's enough of the fun questions. We're going to get to the serious stuff now. What we call our Fast Five, a rapid fire Q&A, and I'm going to give you a question and you give me a quick answer. Let me start with you, Will. Your favorite beverage?
Coke and a smile.
Coke and a smile. All right. Sam, favorite beverage?
Water. Cold water with lots of ice.
Okay. And Sam, the last book that you read?
Gosh, last night I actually read a book on mental health issues from the American Psychology Association. I'm a nerd.
Casual reading, yeah? Will?
The Hobbit.
The Hobbit.
The best of the Lord of the Rings books.
All right. With Tolkien fan. All right. What was the last movie that made you cry, Sam?
Gosh, the Notebook.
All right. I have no idea, but
you need to watch it.
Be... Okay. And you?
Your Name by Makoto Shinkai.
Your Name by Makoto Shinkai. What was that about?
It's an anime. It's kind of a Freaky Friday time travel story. It's great. If you haven't seen it, Makoto Shinkai, your name.
All right, at a fiesta, what's on your plate?
Oh gosh, I think the taro, any of the roots and coconut milk, latidza, definitely latidza.
Yeah. So you don't pile it up and then get a Diet Coke?
Oh no, no, no! I go back for seconds and thirds.
All right, Will, how about you?
I pile it up and get a regular Coke. But no, I'm a big fan of the beef and gravy. Oh, that one goes around. Anytime they got lechon or what's the word? Steamboats. You know, you guys have been doing it up great at these political events. So keep on.
Lechon. You know, I haven't eaten yet. You make me hungry. Okay. Quote or motto that you live by, Sam?
Gosh, I have actually two. One that I've always lived by is never live your life in vain. And the one that I'm using for my campaign and have always used is to believe in a better way.
Oh, nice.
Where there's a will, there's a way.
Where there's a will, there's a way. Clever, clever. All right, that's good. Oh yeah, sorry. I'm told that we can offer you guys a chance to make a final comment out to our viewers, and I think you can stare right at that camera, Sam, and tell them why they should vote for you.
Sure. My name is Shirley Sam Mabini Young, and I'm number 11 on the Republican side of the ballot. And I am humbly asking for your vote to get back into the legislature to tackle again education and training of our students, young and old, so that we can support them and helping them find quality way of life. Second is to working with our agencies so that we can hold them a lot more accountable, tackling our drug issues here in Guam and also drug issues and homelessness. And third, working with our other branches so that we can work together to have a smarter and smaller government. So I'm asking ang mga kababayans natin doon, wag mong kalimutan ako, si Dr. Sam Mabini Young. I would love to continue being your senator to serve you.
All right, that's Sam Mabini Young, candidate for senator, Republican. And now,
sit up for this.
Now we're getting ready for Big Will here. Will, go ahead.
Hafaday Guam, I'm Wil Parkinson. I'm the son of former Speaker Don Parkinson, and I want to be your senator. I'm number 2 on the ballot, and I'm humbly asking for your vote. I was raised on Guam and grew up to be a federal firefighter for 9 years, but I came home to take care of my 100% disabled veteran father. If you elect me senator, I will take my experience as a student, firefighter, small business manager, activist, and policy writer to do good things for Guam. I will work hard for you, and I won't forget the people. So please humbly consider me for one of your votes. Number 2, Wil Parkinson. Thank you very much.
All right, that's Wil Parkinson and Sam Mabini Young, candidates for the Guam legislature. Keep them in mind. All right.